Dr. Anna Juricic, your low vision optometrist and the creator of the Vision Enhancing Method. And the topic of today's video is about the book Breath by James Nestor, the one here in this bright yellow covered book. And you'll get to hear why I've been recommending this book to about 80% of my patients I've seen since April, and why I think it can be a very impactful read for people to have better eye health. But by listening to the video, you'll be able to access a lot of the highlights of why I've been recommending this book. So the way this all came about was actually because of a book that was recommended to me last year in 2021. And it was recommended by two friends. One friend is actually a fellow colleague and optometrist, and the other friend is one who's not in the healthcare field. And she was the first one who recommended the book, and 3 weeks later, my colleague did. And so it was on my list of books to eventually get to read. And in April of this year, my husband was diagnosed with sleep apnea. And when he got the diagnosis, he happened to be in Ottawa. He was working, he was out of town for a work-related business trip. And he told me the diagnosis. And immediately I said, remember the book we were told about called Breath by James Nestor? And so my husband downloaded it that evening and started listening to it. And the next day when I spoke to him, he said, can you make sure when you're picking me up from the airport, can you have a hard copy waiting with you? And that's because my husband, he's one who likes to listen to things as he's reading, but he likes to underline the key points that he comes across. And so as he was listening to the book and making his notes, he kept getting these aha moments, not just aha moments that could have an impact for him, but it was actually aha moments that he saw had an impact on me and also on our 4 kids. And he'd start sharing them to me. And but 2 weeks later, I started to actually listen to the book because, as I said, I'm quite busy with work and having the 4 kids. That it was a lot easier for me to just listen to the book as I was commuting to and from work. And sure enough, I was getting the aha moments. I saw what my husband kept referring to. And one that was really important for me to understand was that often I would get cold. Um, um, I'm one who often my feet get cold. Sometimes I have to wear those socks, those extra warm socks, or my hands can get cold. And in the book, it was explaining that if you're in kind of that low stress mode, you're actually in what's called the sympathetic system is activating as opposed to the parasympathetic. And if you've ever heard these terms parasympathetic and sympathetic, it's confusing. What does it mean? I'll simplify it. Sympathetic is that fight and flight system that we have. That's a part in our body that we have that ability to react immediately without thinking if we're in a situation that could be dangerous. For example, that big bear that shows up in the forest and you don't know what to do. Well, your sympathetic system kicks in, so you can automatically do what you're supposed to do in that moment. Or if there's that fiery building and knowing what to do. So that is what the sympathetic system is supposed to do. But what was highlighted by James Nestor is often us women, especially, we might be in kind of a low stress mode all the time that we're activating that sympathetic system when really we shouldn't be. And if we're activating the sympathetic system, then that means our heart has to pump faster. It has to keep our core body, which is that main chest area, our heart, lungs, the abdomen has to be protected and safe. So it means bring in more oxygen to those areas because it needs to keep it protected and functioning properly. And if you're having to bring in more oxygen to those areas because you're in that low stress level or the high stress level, that means that you might be pulling away the extra oxygen from your extremities, which means your hands, your legs, your head, and also your eyes. And that's where I kept getting these aha moments of, wait a second, how many different eye diseases are related to that are related to not having enough oxygen, or it's oxidative stress that's causing it. So as I was reading it, I saw the correlations, because when we talk about somebody who has macular degeneration. And I see a lot of individuals with macular degeneration in my practice because it's affected their vision where they're no longer able to read or see well enough to read or to see faces, or they may not be able to drive anymore. And some end up having the wet form, which is often the one that seems to have more of an effect on the vision and damaging effects. So if we peel back the layers and we talk about macular degeneration, what happens is the retinal cells, especially in the macula, are not getting enough oxygen. And if it's not getting enough oxygen, it's sending a signal to the brain to say, hey, we're starving here. We need more oxygen. So the brain says, okay, we'll send some new growth factor cells to the eye. So that way you can create these new blood vessels. It'll bring more oxygen to the side of the eye. Sounds like a great plan, except that the new blood vessels that end up growing have a tendency to be very weak and leak. And if they leak, now there's actually blood or fluid that is actually pooling in the area of the macula. And those macular cells, those pigment cells, that extra blood and fluid can be toxic to it if it's there too long, and those cells can die and cause atrophy and damage and scarring. So, fast forward now to another condition called glaucoma. So, glaucoma is normally related to high pressure in the eye. And glaucoma, in most cases, is a very slow progressive eye condition that the person who has glaucoma has no idea they have it. It's what we call the silent eye disease. And so, if there's too much pressure that's accumulating in the eye, it's causing pressure on the blood supply, the blood vessels that are supposed to bring oxygen to the optic nerve. And if it's causing compression where there's not enough oxygen getting to the optic nerve, those optic nerve cells are now starving for oxygen. And if it doesn't get the oxygen, those cells start to die. And so we'll see changes in the back of the eye where the nerve might be more enlarged. The nerve may appear paler. There may be thinning of the nerve. Now, not all cases of glaucoma relate to high pressure. Some people can have normal pressure, but still that pressure is too high and still can cause there to be an effect of how much oxygen is getting to the optic nerve. Now let's fast forward to another eye condition. So another eye condition is called ischemic optic neuropathy. And there's two forms of it. It could be ones that affect the small arteries or those that don't affect the arteries. But with ischemic optic neuropathy, again, this is a condition where there's actually an occlusion, where there's not enough blood supply. Something's occluded there to be enough blood supply that gets to retinal cells or to the optic nerve. And again, if the retinal cells or the optic nerve are not getting enough oxygen, those cells can die. And if it's not caught early enough that there's enough oxygen that gets back to those retinal cells, it can lead to permanent damage where it can affect someone where half their field of vision is affected. And often it can happen in one eye. And then a few weeks or months later, it can happen in another eye. I just recently had a lovely lady who came in to see me who is middle-aged. And she had an episode about 7 years ago where she had one of these ischemic optic neuropathies in one eye. About 7 years ago, last year, in the middle of COVID, she had it happen to the other eye. And she's one of the rare few people where earlier this year, in February, she had another episode in the original right eye. And so she was sitting in my chair and asking, is there anything that can be done? And I said, I don't know why this has happened to you, why you, of all people, happen to be in the rare case where you've actually had it happen 3 times. But I said, you know what? I've been told about this book, and it's one that I've been telling a lot of my patients. So I'm just grabbing it here. The book is this one, this bright yellow covered book. And the title of the book is called Breath, and it's by James Nestor. And James Nestor is not a medical professional. He happens to be a journalist. But James Nestor, as a child, had a lot of health ailments. He had asthma and other health ailments, and even in adulthood had a lot of health issues and breathing issues. And a friend suggests that he actually go to a breathing course. And when the friend recommends him going to the breathing course, he says, I'm not into yoga, I'm not into meditation. And he decides, you know what? Why not? Why not? I tried all these other things. Why not? So he goes to this breathing course. And during the breathing course, right at the beginning, his mind is chattering. And I don't know if any of you have paid attention, but we have a lot of these movies that play in our head, and they're stories and conversations that you might have. Many of us do. It's just the way our brain works. And they haven't happened, they're not real. And you can stop it by actually consciously telling your brain, hey, this isn't real, it hasn't happened. So that's what James does. He tells his mind, okay, no, I'm here. I'm going to listen to what this instructor has to tell me. And he actually follows the instructions and he gets into the zone that he's supposed to get into. And while he's listening to this breathing instructor, his body is experiencing different things that it never has experienced before. And at the end of the course, when it's time for him to kind of come to and wake up, he looks around the room and he realizes nobody else in the room experienced what he just experienced. And it actually ignites something in him that he wants to know what in the world just happened to his body. So he goes to Greece and he goes to study deep divers who go underwater for 8 minutes at a time with one breath. Because how are they able to do it? Like, why are they able to do it? Is it something in their genes? But it's actually something they're able to train for. And while he's there, he's told, well, you should actually look into this other area. And this is how it actually evolves, where he spends the next few years studying breathing. And so much so that he actually enrolls himself into a Stanford experiment or study. And he also, along his ways, meets somebody from Sweden, and the two of them do the Stanford study together. And it's a pretty interesting study where for 10 days their nose or nasal passageways are plugged up. So they cannot breathe through their nose. Because if you ever remember, if you're from the Western culture, many of us were told to breathe in through our nose, out through our mouth. But what James Nestor describes, that's wrong. And there are cultures in the world who they've always been told breathe in through your nose and out through your nose, longer, deeper breaths. Often those who are into meditation and yoga are well aware of this. But if you're listening to this and you're one of those who've always known to breathe in through your nose and out through your nose, I'll let you know, not all of us in the world do that. And this is where this book was very impactful for me, because with COVID happening, and when I got to have that opportunity to go back to work, because we're all closed down for 3 months where I wasn't able to go see patients. And when I was able to go back, I was wearing my KN95 mask. And I would find I would be absolutely exhausted at the end of my day, unlike any time before. And especially in the winter, on the colder days, because I'm here in Toronto, we get the winters. I was so grateful to be able to step out of the office and breathe in fresh air. It was just like nothing like I experienced before. And it's so ironic because I've lived many, many years here in my life, in this body of mine. And the experience of actually just breathing fresh, cold air was just, I would actually just feel this sense of gratitude, because I recognize that I wasn't breathing properly. And so, with getting the book, and when my husband got the aha moments, and I was getting the aha moments, I understood what was happening and why I was so exhausted at the end of my day while I was seeing patients and having to wear these masks. And it's something I continue to wear in the office still today. And that's because most of my patients I see are over the age of 80 and are very much health compromised and have a lot of health ailments. So it's a choice that we've decided to make, because we just felt it was for our our more compromised patients. It was just a safer thing to make sure that they could maybe be safer when they're in the clinic. So I still experience where I'm actually tired. And it's because I know that I haven't been able to breathe in properly. I'm wearing a mask. So every chance I have in between patients, I'll take it off so I can breathe. So it made a lot of sense. And that's because I realized that I actually was breathing more in through my nose, out through my mouth. And I was doing it not just with the mask, but I was actually just always doing it as well. And so the insight was that we should really be breathing in longer, deeper breaths in. So we breathe in for about 5 to 6 seconds, a long, deep breath in through our nose, and long, deep breath out through our nose. And that's because we have the proper filtration system in our nasal passageway to bring that proper oxygen, clean out any of the toxins within the air and the impurities. It also gives the proper balance with the carbon dioxide and oxygen level, because there is actually a certain amount of balance that we're supposed to have in terms of even nitrous oxide, keeping everything in check and balance, because our nasal passageways have been created to be able to be the proper filtration system. And if you're breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth, or breathing in through your mouth, you're not breathing properly, you're not getting the full filtration of the oxygen level as we should. So I started actually sharing this with my patients because um, I see a lot of people with various eye conditions that can cause oxidative stress, like I mentioned, macular degeneration, with glaucoma, where they don't have enough oxygen, with this ischemic optic neuropathy, or patients who have retinitis pigmentosa, albinism, Stargardt's. And it's one that I recognize, well, if someone's not breathing properly, and there's a lot more studies out there now, especially because of COVID, where it validates this whole thought that yes, we're supposed to be breathing in through our nose and out through our nose and having the longer, deeper breaths. And it got me thinking, well, if this is something I can share and my patients can adopt it in their everyday lives, maybe we can actually bring in that more of that oxygen to help decrease the oxidative stress that's happening. And so one of the things that I've adopted is one that I came across with doing the research, and it's called the 365 rule, or 365. And it's where you actually do this exercise 3 times a day, where you take deep breaths in for 6 seconds and out through 6 seconds for 5 minutes every day, 365 days of the year. And if you do that, they've actually found that it can actually bring down that stress level, bring you back to the parasympathetic, that's that calming area, that calming system that we have, as opposed to that fight and flight sympathetic system that I was mentioning earlier. So it can bring back that calm into your life. Because I find a lot of my patients have experiences where they have anxiety, or they're higher stress, they have panic attacks. And it's known fact that when you have these anxious episodes or panic attacks, that usually you're breathing quicker, shallower, your heart is racing. And that's because you've actually gone into the sympathetic system. Your body is in that fight and flight mode, it's in that survival mode. And if you're taking those deeper breaths in through your nose and deeper breaths out through your nose for 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out, or even 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, it brings more that calm. It changes the chemical response in your body. And that's why often it is recommended for individuals who might be under stress, anxiety, panic attacks, that they should do this. Um, we found a difference in terms of just within our family with using breathing in through our nose, out through our nose. My husband has found he's a squash player, that he can play squash for 45 minutes and he's not winded at the end. And that's because he's actually consciously making the effort to breathe in through his nose, out through our nose. It's something that we've actually taught our kids, because we have 3 out of 4 of our kids play rep soccer. And when they were breathing in through their nose, out through their mouth, they were often like just, you'd see them red faced at the end of their practices or their games. trying to gasp for air, and it'd be like, no, no, remember, breathe in through your nose, out through your nose. Um, and it's made a difference in how much energy they have when they're playing. So we've been sharing it with their coaches and their soccer team, this little tidbit as well. I know I've noticed a difference in terms of myself, where I'm a lot calmer and I know to do this, and I'm actively doing it more often. So this is why I wanted to share this book, Breath by James Nestor, again with you. And that's because I've been sharing it with about 80% of my patients since April, when I first listened to the book. And I did the listening because it was easier for me to just listen to it while I was in the car. I've had feedback from patients. Some of them have been downloading the book onto their e-reader so they can actually make the print much bigger and easier, or they've been able to change the contrast to white on black because it's easier for them to see it that way, so they can use their eyes to read. I've had other patients who, unfortunately, because of their eye condition, they're having a lot more struggles with reading, so they prefer the audio method. Um, Others have been able to actually pick up the book at their library, or even download the audio version through their library, their local library. I picked up this book, the hard copy, at a local independent bookstore here in Toronto. It's called Book City, because I'm a big fan of supporting independent businesses. But you can easily get this also through Chapters Indigo. You can get it through Amazon if you're from the US, Barnes and Noble. But they do have it in various languages around the world as well. So if you're listening to me and you found this video and you live somewhere outside of North America, it is available in multiple languages as well. But it is a book I recommend. I recommend sharing it with your loved ones, sharing it with your friends, add it to a book club list if you're into book clubs. And that's because it's a very simple principle that I think now, with what we've experienced with COVID the last 2.5 years, it has even a bigger impact of us understanding why it's so important to breathe properly. And if it can have that better effects and benefits to your life, keep that oxygen getting to all of the cells it needs. And I mean, the extremities, your hands, your legs, your heart's pumping properly, the blood supply getting to your brain, so especially affecting cognitive skills, and also to your eyes. Remember, I'm the optometrist, so eyes are so important to me. So this is something I've been sharing with my patients and those who've been lucky to sit in my chair. And the reason I created this video is for all of you who haven't had a chance to meet me in person. You get the tips that I'm actually sharing with my patients. So I want you to remember, if you if you got some great tidbits from reading the book, share with me. I'd love to hear what you have found. I am creating lots of different content as part of this new educational video platform that I'm having on my new website, that's coming. And watch out for my podcast, which is going to be launching in the next little bit as well. And it's all going to be about vision, anything that's related to vision, because I'm big about also discussing nutrition, and other ways to help people beyond some of the traditional solutions. Because sometimes when we talk about vision, there's only so much we can do with glasses. That's where I come into play as a low vision optometrist. I show my patients various vision solutions that are available to them that are beyond glasses. But we have to look at that holistic way of looking at the way the eyes work. And that's what these videos are all about giving you the information. What I like about James Nestor, the author of the book Breath, is that at the back of his book, he has a lot of the um, information of where he has gotten a lot of the information from in terms of studies, other books, and people. So he has references because he is actually a journalist. You can find more information on his own website. I think it's jamesnestor.com. And he's good to let you know he's not a medical professional. So he actually has medical professionals on his website who can talk about different things. And I find that there's some great, credible individuals there, so you can get even more information. You have some breathing exercises that you can find on his website as well. I will be including some videos as part of this series where I actually go through some of the different breathing exercises, so that way you'll have easy access, so you don't have to go searching for them as well. If you find that this has been informative, please share it with your friends, your family. Subscribe to my podcast that's coming, my YouTube channel, and share the links and share the information that's out there, because that's what this is all about, is enlightening my patients, letting them know what's out there, and share it with your loved ones, your family and friends, because there's a lot of great information. Thank you.